The first session is on our landscape survey, the market research we did, and it's continuing to do in cooperation with our members. So I'd like to welcome Bart, Margaret, and Lubash up, representing their three countries, Austria, Belgium, and Czech Republic. We're conducting, as I said before, the surveys in Germany now and other countries, and the results are really something that you can use for today, okay? And I'd like to, Paul Wood, thank him. He's been moderating the session. He's been helping us, supporting us, and we've done this in cooperation with Silktide. So therefore, I am going to give it over to Renato. I think everybody knows Renato, and so it's yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but hopefully it's a good thing. But thank you, Siinda. Thank you, publisher partners. It's been a very interesting study. Today I'm just going to do a recap on where we're up to in terms of this study, take you through some of the high-level results, and then we're going to pass over to Paul, who's going to moderate a session about how people have activated the data they used. Okay, so the first thing was just a recap on what the study was about. So we've worked with 6 countries at the moment. We're working with Germany in the 7th. So we've been with Ireland, Slovakia, Belgium, Austria, Czech Republic, and Malta. And we've targeted 10% of 6 business sectors, over about 300,000 small businesses in total across Europe. So really what we were looking at are the key sectors that were interesting to the publishers. They were trades, retail, hospitality, professional services, health, fitness, and beauty. And what we found was some interesting results that hopefully can be activated by our partners. So first things first, we analyse businesses' online presence across all the markets. We have our own proprietary scoring system. And what we were able to do is sort of analyse those businesses and score them out of 100. What we found initially was that over 80% of those businesses that we analysed scored lower than 70. And 70 is like a benchmark for us, which says these are relatively good websites and online presence is pretty strong. But what we also found was that 50% of those businesses analysed scored below 50, and 50 is a really quite an opportunity for you publishers to go after, find opportunities to sell up, to swap out their website, swap out some of the other characteristics. But again, the average was 89% across all markets had poor performing websites. So what else do we see? We looked at the online presence, we looked at their websites, we measured 205 different platforms. What we found was, no surprise, WordPress reigns supreme. It's quite significant across all of the markets. But we also found that in Ireland, for example, 74% were using WordPress, but in Austria we found only 41%. That was quite a significant difference in terms of the adoption of content management systems. What we also found was those that you were using a relatively recognised platform, so the platforms provided by some of the partners in this room, but also were scoring 15% above the score of other less recognised platforms. And again, that gives you a data point to take to your markets and say, there's a reason why we sell these platforms and the reasons why we do this. So other things that we measured, we looked at page speed. This was quite interesting across the markets. We looked at the differences between the Czech Republic, which was relatively fast. So what we were measuring here was the page speed in terms of how long it takes to load a whole page. Okay. So in the Czech Republic, on mobile, we found it was taking on average 7.6 seconds, which is relatively fast when you think about the variations you might have at both ends. You might have a lot that were taking 20 seconds and some that were taking less than 1 second. So quite a significant difference. When we compare and contrast that with Belgium were taking 11.8 seconds on average to load a page on mobile. And when you think that Google's recommendation is that if a page takes longer than 3 seconds to load, it's not performing well. So again, more data points for our partners to use to take to market. So other things that we looked at whether they were mobile optimized, we looked at whether there were analytics on their websites, we looked at whether they have a sitemap, if they're using SSL, whether they've got video content, whether they're selling using e-commerce as part of their solution. And strangely enough, there's some very, very interesting results. Only 48% actually have an analytics solution on their website. So, there's again a great indicator that, they don't care or don't know what's actually happening with their online presence. Only 10% are actually using video. We know the power of video and how important it is in this market, and having a video on your website drives real traffic. And also, you know, with trust and authority being important, SSL certification should be important for most businesses, and only 20%, 19% of businesses across the markets had an SSL certificate on their website. Another indicator of SME engagement is also looking at the website freshness. Again, this opens an opportunity for you partners to take advantage of that and start to operate in that space where you can start to manage that online presence and manage that freshness and update those websites and so on. But we found that 46% of all the SMBs, 150,000 small businesses this year that we analysed, hadn't updated their website in the last year. So that is looking at content, that's looking at images, that's looking at you know, date stamps on the website and so on. So 46% of small businesses, and that doesn't come to you, I'm sure, as any surprise, but it's quite significant. And only 24% had updated in the last 30 days. We've got a load more other data points. I'm not going to go through all the detail here, but all of this information is available through Siinda. If you talk to Kimberly, I'm sure she'll make that available to you as published partners. But again, we looked at poor heading structure, we looked at missing titles and descriptions, duplication, duplicated titles, and again, massive opportunities in these areas for you to explain to customers why it's important, why your websites that you provide, why the solutions you provide are market leading and best in class. So we looked at also social presence. We looked at whether they have a Facebook page, whether they have a Twitter account, whether they have Instagram, also whether they're using AdWords and whether they use a Facebook retargeting pixel on their site. And again, quite interesting, we saw that only 50% of the small businesses measured had social presence linking to their website. Again, really important for SEO, really important to drive traffic back to your primary site. And again, we also looked at AdWords, like I say. In some markets, there was only 3% adoption of AdWords being used in the last year. In Ireland, for example, there's 10%. So quite a significant opportunity for you to do a lot better there and take advantage of that. Finally, I'll just share some insights by sector. This is just a bit of analysis by the trade sector or home services, depends on how you define it. But we looked at how many of those websites were mobile optimized, for example. The differences between the Czech Republic and Ireland were quite significant. Ireland, 80% of all the tradespeople websites that we analysed were mobile optimized. When we looked at the Czech Republic, only 40% were mobile optimized. We all know what that means. We all know why that is important. So, thank you very much. I've just wanted to present some of those top-line metrics. All of the data is available through Siinda. And I'll now pass to my lovely horse presenter, Paul Wood, to take you through how they've activated the data and how they've used the data.
Thanks, Renato. So you've seen some of the data points, but we actually pass all the data back to the publishers. So they have up to, I think it's 100 different data points in their data set for all the businesses they gave us. And having these high level by country and also pan-European are very useful. But the most important aspect of this is how can it help you become thought leaders in your market, and how can you action the data to get more sales. And we've got 3 distinguished panelists from FCR Media Belgium, Herald, and Mediatel Czech Republic, who have been working with the data as members of this. And I just wanted to start with Bart. How have you sort of taken this data and started your thought leadership position? Hello.
It's different when you sit there and when you sit here.
Yeah, you're on.
So we definitely played it on the thought leadership. So we released a press statement about this study, and we gave all the numbers to our press agency. It was picked up by, I think, approximately 10 different forums that wrote something about it, really establishing the fact that Belgium really has some way to go still in website development and freshness of the website and all the numbers that you've seen. I think one thing which is very interesting is that we estimated the value of the press coverage that we had, and I think the agency brought back that it was a value of 12,000 euros if we would have done this through paid media. So this definitely paid for us the study already back big time. So no, it was a very nice cooperation.
That's great. Margit.
Well, we are just about setting up a PR plan, and we think we will fill a whole year with press releases and PR work with these kind of data. We are going to Austria has 9 provinces, and we are going to drill down the results to the different provinces, and we will address local media and show how the situation is in the different province, and we expect high PR coverage. And additionally, what we are going to do now is we currently conducting a huge consumer study which will show us how consumers are searching when they want to make a buying decision. And I'm sure we will identify a gap between consumer expectations and wishes and the offerings SMBs have. And of course, this gap will be a perfect PR story as well.
Yeah. On your Bundesländer PR, are you going to try and have a landing page set up so that small businesses who maybe weren't part of the study can go in and check their performance?
Definitely, yeah. So we intend to do this to make really a best effort with this data.
So it's a thought leadership and a lead generation potentially activity, and I think Bart, you were looking at something similar on that.
Yeah, and we're already doing it indeed in cooperation with Silk Tide. We have Facebook campaigns running where small businesses can scan their website and already see how they're behaving. Of course, we feed that to our sales force as leads. So it's definitely something we're already working with. Yeah.
So Lubos, on outside of PR, what are you doing with the data?
Well, actually, we haven't started with any public PR, some stuff, big stuff. We would like to use it for our email marketing in the short future. But what we did, we used the data from the landscape survey in our presentation, which we do on some specific conferences. So that's where we use it. And by the way, yesterday, my sales director called me that he presented, I think, 2 weeks ago in hospitality conference. And we use the data from that study plus data from EX and Vendasta, so we combined all the stuff there. And yesterday he had a meeting with the largest brewery who is supporting their customers. Thousands of pubs and thousands of customers who are supported by this brewery. And one of the content they would like to give them right now is the digital marketing webinars and training, etc., and they selected us as a partner for that. So it seems that next week we will sign contract with this large company. So using this data, we are now really perceived as a thought leader in that business. So it was perfect.
And we do get commissions on these contracts, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Yeah, sure.
But you've done some exciting stuff actually with. How many of you are putting it in your CRM? For sales to actually use this as a tool?
Yeah, so I hold microphone. So yeah, we do that. So we spend a lot of time on the data, and I can present to the Ashma, please. So what we would like to do is to visualize the data in some kind of report, and we are now working on the system where we'd like to bring our customers to some specific URL where they can really see the results. You will see that we have basically
it's just coming
it's
up.
Loading here. So now it's just preliminary Excel spreadsheet which we are using for that, and we'll be working on the other stuff how we can visualize that. Our plan is either use Power BI or Google Studio. how to visualize that. And our plan is that we will use it in email campaign. We will send that information to our customers so we can generate leads. We will bring them to some URL. We want to extend this data from the survey also with the data from the scanner of the exits, because we need to bring them also some listing information, which was not part of that study. And you can see that. So currently our sales reps can select, this is the hospitality part. So what we did, we actually structured the data to 5 different areas. We did our own waves on that. So we show them what's the result in specific area, and we compare that. If you look at this, so we can select any customer from these 40,000 listings which we received back, and it recalculates immediately all the information, and we have the benchmark with the business where they are, and also you can compare that with the entire country. So this is how we work with that, and we would like to visualize that and start the generating leading with this kind of data. So I believe that we will really leverage and we will use that.
And it's interesting that you're using the benchmark data and not just the raw score of the business, to also compare them how they're doing.
Sure, it wouldn't say anything if you just don't compare, because because what is important, these red sides are very good for us. Yeah. If it's green, we have no opportunity. So I'm very happy that I am very happy that we have only 40% of websites which are mobile optimized. So this is 60% opportunity. So.
Now, Bart, are you doing any email campaigns right now? Is there a plan to target specific products?
You mean with this data?
Yeah. I mean, I know you're doing email campaigns. Well,
what we're doing, we're doing a lot of email campaigns. Now, what we're doing with the data is we give, of course, the data to our sales reps. So we made sales leaflets out of it, so they can take it with them. If they talk about a website, they can explain what are good things about in a website, what are things that they need to do differently, why we can help them with the website. And I think one of the things that came out very well is that the websites that we built with Mono as our partner score much better than the WordPress websites or the websites that are homegrown or built by any other partner. So I think that for us, and that gives sales confidence that if they step in front of a customer, that they know that we can sell and we can build a website that is working for them. And so that's in terms of benchmarking a bit with what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Sales confidence is half the battle, right?
Yes, it's more than half, I think.
90%. One of the things, the ideas we had was that we were able to identify certain groups within there. And I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity yet, but identify certain groups that had certain, throwing some elements into a bucket and creating an email campaign with a specific solution. So, you know, your website's terrible, you've got no linkage, this is all your problems. Here's our website package, click through, sign up today. Has anyone gone that far with it? Or are you still using mainly a call with the sales to introduce it?
Well, in our case, it's too new. But I'm sure we are going to do this. And so we are, as I said before, we are just about setting up the plan. And I think it's a perfect opportunity to attract attention and to attract new customers and to sail up customers.
We are also, as I show, we are also in preparation stage, but I try to push and focus on that because the data which we received will be very old in 1 month. Mm-hmm. So we would like to start very soon with this because the situation can be changed. So we are now really pushing that.
Yeah, yeah. Have you had a chance to dig into other the data points? And just for the audience, that we only showed you the highlights, but for example, there's how many words per page are being used, which is another option for SEO optimization and things like that. Have you had a chance to dig down, or are you still taking the low-hanging fruit right now? And Lubos, you're just throwing it all into a spreadsheet, I guess.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. But we are still really digging what we can use, and we know that we have to select or take out some listings. So we know that we have to spend more time on that. So.
Going back to the PR work, I think it's very important to also address the vertical trade media and to present the data you have seen per business segment. And I think this is also a great way to take advantage.
Well, it sounds like you're all sort of becoming thought leaders. Yeah, getting the head growing. Do we have any questions from the audience for Renato or the panel on any of the information that's out there? Hello?
I think everybody's stunned.
Yeah, I have a very simple question. Where can I have a copy of the study? I have
Kimberly.
Oh, you have one?
Where can he get a copy of the study?
Oh, I'll member Dropbox. See, there's a printed one that's keeping the whole thing. It's in the member Dropbox.
member Dropbox.
I'll send you but after this session, everybody will get access. Okay.
So I guess in London we would like to, redo this study with more countries as we've added them on, particularly the German market. Oh,
That was the question, is it an ongoing study? Is it still possible to add a market to it?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
You need to talk to me about that, okay? So.
get your pen out. Go.
Come on, no. Yeah, our intention is to continue this, and it's ongoing, and please talk to me sometime today, and I'll get back to you after the conference, and we'll see how the steps go.
So today it sounds like you're using the information to sell with your existing sales force. Are you planning to do any kind of self-provisioning, making someone getting the information via email, however they're going to get the information, and then be able to buy directly online themselves? Is that in the works for any of y'all?
Well, actually, that's what we are thinking about. So we would like to really create the URL and then send the emails and marketing campaign to our customers so they can really do that themselves. The question is if they can really do that online. Yeah. I mean, the entire sales process can be done online, because I think there must be some explanation. These data are quite complicated just to read it if you don't understand it. So we will think about this, maybe we try. But I believe that it's more the input and source of information for our sales reps who can use that properly. Sure. We have to train them, show them how to work with that. But we will test definitely, but I'm not sure that it can work.
Yep.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think what this study shows is that if you don't build your website in a professional way, or if you don't really pay attention to a number of things that you need to do, it's very easy to then your website becomes obsolete or not performant enough anymore. So I think that's really where we can add value as a partner to make sure that the website is performant, as SSL, has Facebook, and all the things that need to be there. I don't know if in self-service, I think most of the sites that we scanned, which were not performing very well, were sites that were built by somebody around the corner or somebody himself. And I think that's definitely, the study shows that there we can add value. Yeah, that's a possibility that we are considering. Yes, yeah. But it's not that easy, and that's a bit due to the market situation in Belgium around e-commerce, and the market has to mature a little bit more before we can go there.
One element I've been talking to these guys about that I'm not sure we're there yet, but with this data, if we have enough businesses in there and enough in the sector, we can actually tell a business that they're ranking in the bottom quartile for their heading. Even if we've got enough in hospitality, we could drill down to restaurants. I don't think we can go to Italian restaurants yet, because I don't think we have enough businesses, but you can go down to restaurants and say your performance is in the bottom quartile. And we all know businesses are competitive, and if you tell them it's even more than just the top line benchmarking information we're providing. We can actually drill down even further, but that is a function of the data and the number of listings. Any more questions?
Time for one more? Okay. Oh, way back here. Wait a minute.
with all this data, I mean, it's super complicated, right? So what are you guys doing to simplify that message down? Because I think when you look through all those sectors, and if you look at all that data, it's overwhelming to the average small business. And so what factors are you guys looking at to simplify it so the message is understandable to the average SMB?
I think what we try to do is to make a sales aid which is specifically to be used by for an SMB. I think it's what we mainly do is have a sales rep explain it and walk him through the study that was done and through the key metrics. But you have to take a few highlights. Do not talk about SSL or any of these things because it's indeed, I agree, way too complicated.
Yeah, I agree. So I think there are some points very obvious. So a website not being mobile optimized, everybody will understand this. And when you also add the fact how many consumers are searching with a mobile, then it's pretty obvious. And I think, yeah, we really have to simplify it and to pick out the most valuable results of this survey. And
maybe I can add, that's what I showed, that we start with the overall score, which we want to show to the customer, and then we split the data to 5 different sectors. And we also score these sectors, and this is how we want to do the sales speech. So we start with the overscore, then we show this, and if customer wants to understand more, we show the details. So that's how we try to simplify the sales score, which will be behind that those data.
So I think we're going to...
Sorry, one last comment on that. And you're benchmarking sort of each of the attributes.
Yes. Yes.
So my score and a benchmark. So
on every level. Yeah.
Even if they don't understand it, they know they're performing poorly versus a benchmark, which I think helps the conversation go along.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just from the side of Siinda, just once again that this partnership, this is available for any Siinda member. So please come see me if your country's not here yet. We haven't done anybody in Scandinavia as of yet. Switzerland, and we'll talk about the partnership. And it's our idea to keep this ongoing and to put Siinda really as thought leaders in this space on what is going on in the European market. And what I really like about this is it's really a fantastic cooperation with our members and our partners, and I'd like to thank the members that have done that. And also Renato and Paul for supporting us on that. And at the front desk, the registration desk, and at your desk, there's a little example of some of the consolidated highlights. So thank you very much. Those of you who are also members of LSA probably know about the Tech Adoption Survey. And Siinda, this started in cooperation with a discussion between Neg Norton and I about a year and a half ago. And Siinda actually bought some of the studies from LSA, some of the questions, and when we took the questions and we brought it into the European market, we said we had to adapt them. And we also not only had to adapt them, we had to translate them into 5 languages. So it was a little bit of a different process than what LSA went through, but the idea was to eventually be able to benchmark what's going on in Europe with what's going on in North America or the United States. So I'd like to ask Charles Laughlin to come up, and we've had, for the European side, we have a partnership with the University of New York for this, and I'd like to ask William Pattison, and he's a corporate programs director. He's also our marketing guy, so he's playing 2 roles here. So with his support, we got the cooperation with the University of New York for the European side, and Charles is going to present us some of the things they saw in U.S., and we just got fresh data for the European side. We don't have a lot to show you. As I said, it took us a lot longer than we thought when we started translating and getting the data, getting the questions to our partners. And once again, this has been a very incredible cooperation with our members. Bruno knows we finished in France. We've worked with Yale in UK, And as soon as we get all those results in, we're publishing the white paper and we'll be able to present it to you. But we'll give you some highlights today. So Charles, I'm going to give you, William, you can have a seat, okay? And then give you the floor
All right.
and to present
Is
to
this
us.
thing on? So, hello, everyone. I'm Charles Lockman, as she said. And how many, I'm not going to ask how many of you heard of the Tech Adoption Index since it's just been introduced to you, but I've been working on this project since roughly last year. And the original question we are trying to get an answer to is how many small businesses are using cloud technology to run their business? Everything from paying the bills to sourcing the supplies they need to run the business, paying the staff, acquiring customers, managing the customer data, all of this. How much of that are they doing through their phone, using mobile apps that are where all the data is in the cloud? And the reason we wanted to understand the answer to that question was that we were beginning to see a sort of a transformation in the marketplace where companies that aren't traditional Siinda or LSA attendees or members are beginning to own pieces of the marketing stack. Yes. And so the competitive environment was beginning to change. And so we thought, well, if small businesses are moving their operations into the cloud, their relationships with those cloud service providers will transform perhaps into more of a full stack relationship so that your competitors may become payment companies or point of sale companies or accounting platforms and so on and so on. So the marketplace was changing. We figured somebody needed to get out there and do some research to understand it. So I only have a few minutes today, so I'm not going to show you a ton of data. We just actually got the data this morning from our third wave. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of show you some themes that we're pulling out of the data with a little bit of data to support it. And if you're interested in a briefing on the whole thing, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. If you're interested in just our insights on what's going on in this area, I'll be happy to talk to you anytime. It's interesting to note that a lot of the companies that are constituents of LSA and Siinda are actually already moving their business models in this direction. If you look at Texas Thrive, if you look at companies like that are building platforms and selling software as a service, recurring revenue models instead of basically just generating leads for small businesses. So what do you do with those leads once you have them? And how does that tie into the full operation of the business? So the market's changing, and I think all of us, Siinda and ourselves are trying to be ahead of the game to understand it and help you understand it. So I'm going to share some themes. One is that this small business shift to the cloud is generational. Why is this important? So if you look at, say, a business owner who is my age or older, they're more likely to be a pen and paper operation. They keep track of customer records, perhaps on desktop software or on pen and paper instead of using a cloud-based CRM, for example. Or they're more likely to use a traditional payroll service or staff to handle HR and payroll rather than something like Gusto, which does it all for you in the cloud. So we're trying to understand how much the generational shift impacts this. And so the implication of that is as business owners that are older begin to retire or have a succession plan of some sort, the people who are going to be making those decisions in their wake will be making a very different set of decisions. It'll be around using cloud. Is there an app for that will be the first question they ask when they examine a business process. It's a very different world. So how generational is this shift? This is just one question. We actually have firmographic cuts across all of the questions by age of the decision maker, the age of the business itself, size of the business, region, and so on. This, by the way, this is all US data. That's the whole point of me versus them. But we have about 1,000 sample. And if you look at, are you using a smartphone to run smartphone apps to run your business, which is sort of a fundamental question behind the whole survey. The whole sample, 56% younger decision makers, 65%, 55 plus, 42%. That's actually not the most striking difference, but you can see that these differences in generational preference for using apps is very strong. So age 55 plus, quite a bit lower than 18 to 34. You can sort of think about this, what implications that has over the next 5, 10, 15 years in terms of what relationships they're going to have and which companies they're going to look to solve other problems for them. Are they going to look for someone like Gusto who, they have this wonderful app to handle their payroll. As Gusto adds services, they say, Gusto gives me a great customer experience. They're adding whatever, marketing. Probably not the next thing they'll add, but they may eventually sort of, through a series of concentric adjacent expansions, they may end up offering marketing services. You already have a great customer experience with them. You're prone to consider that. Whereas perhaps if you don't have a great customer experience with an existing incumbent relationship, that company may have more difficulty in adding services onto what you buy from them. So that's the implication of this, one of many. So the other big theme coming out of this is small businesses are doing this, moving to the cloud, to save time. So why is that important? Well, I think anyone who works with small businesses, which is basically all of us, know that small businesses are, the one thing they have the least of is time. Money is a close second perhaps, but time is a scarce resource. So when we ask them, why are you moving to the cloud? Now, there were many choices, so this is a plurality choice. But save time was the single largest or biggest response. Saving money was about half that. It's not about cost savings. It's about efficiency and time savings. If you can help them solve this issue, you have an opportunity with small businesses. And I don't think we ever think of things this way. We think of, can we drive leads? We never think of, can we help their business operate more effectively? And that's what cloud solutions are delivering. If you solve this problem, you have an opportunity to solve other problems. So that's why this is very important. SMEs are pleased with the cloud's performance. So for the first time in this survey, we asked, we've been asking, what are you moving to the cloud? Are you moving HR to the cloud? Are you moving accounting to the cloud? Are you moving point of sale to the cloud? This time we asked, well, now that you've done that, are you happy with the results? And what we found is, as expected, about a third, worse than expected, about a quarter, better than expected, more than a third. So all in all, that's a pretty good picture of satisfaction with the shift to the cloud. So, this is working for them. They want a single source to take them into the cloud. So what we ask here is, okay, you're buying an app for HR, you're buying an app for CRM, paying invoices and so on and so forth. Do you want all of that in one stack that you pay once for and you access through a single dashboard and so on? Or would you rather pick and choose best of breed apps and manage those independently? And what we find is, it's got a little messed up, but prefer single company is 73%. Pretty overwhelming number. Prefer multiple relationships, a quarter. There's always going to be those who say, no, I want to pick best of breed, don't give me the full stack, I don't trust it to be as good as point solutions. But nonetheless, that's an overwhelming number. Spells an obvious opportunity to roll up a full stack, assuming that full stack works and it delivers the goods. A lot of companies are offering this. Clearly, the market is suggesting that's what we want. Really a matter of execution. Okay, this one's important. So we ask this question where basically, sort of what I alluded to earlier, if somebody has something, let's say your core business is point of sale, Square, good example. What if Square comes to you and offers you email marketing versus a Yellow Pages publisher coming and offering you point of sale? Probably not something they would do, but let's just for example. Who has that best opportunity to move you into a new technology? Is it a media company, which is most of the companies in this room, or is it a tech-first type business? So we asked the question, we keep struggling with how to ask this, but we gave a number of choices: IT solutions providers, internet service providers, cloud technology providers, the Gustos and Squares of the world, and Microsoft and so on and so forth, Google. That 18%. Advertising and marketing services is 11%. So they're much lower on the list. Okay, and finally, that's it. So that's just a taste. Some of the themes that we're gleaning from this. This is just a very small slice of the survey. More than happy to talk to anybody about it in detail. In fact, I've got the latest survey results on my computer. I'd be happy to sit down with you and show you a little more of it if you'd like. So, I'm right on time. All right. Thank you.
So I'm going to invite William up, and as I said, we just got some results. So, and again, with the language issue, we're calculating those now, and so it'll look a little bit different than this, but we want to share with you, and also, we've done this with our members, so, which I think is really, really important, because we're actually going to the SMBs that you are serving, okay? In your market when we do this. And before you come up, I'd also just like to acknowledge and thank Jasper Simonsen, who has helped us on this, and eCommy, who has helped us with their platform on this survey, so that we could get it done in a reasonable cost fashion, okay? Thank you very much, eCommy and Jasper. So William, why don't you come up and share with us some of what we got?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, as Kimberly mentioned, we are also carrying out a very intensive survey of European small, medium businesses. We spent a lot of time designing this survey to make sure that it was actually incredibly relevant and detailed. Oh, pardon me. So that it was entirely detailed and relevant to your businesses, because again, these are your clients and this is opportunity. Okay, so what we've done is just to put together 4 slides. We're going to show you some simple graphs that give the answers to 4 questions. In the end, when the survey is complete, there are 23 questions total, and we hope to present those results in London. Okay, so as Kimberly mentioned, the survey was carried out in 5 different languages. Unfortunately, with Europe, there are so many languages. We tried to choose the largest markets that would bring the greatest value. However, if your country isn't here, we'll be happy to work with you. Okay, so we chose English, French, German, Dutch, and Spanish. There were 23 questions total on the survey. It's roughly half and half. We had 57% male business owners and 43% female business owners. Okay, so what is the first question? What is your company's yearly turnover? And what we're going to show you is an example of one country's answer versus the European totals. So you can see that, for instance, in France, the average turnover, 41%, it's less than 50,000, 39%, it's over 50 to 100,000. So that's a very attractive market. It's a perfect small business target. Now, if we look at the average for all of Europe, what we can see is that it is very similar. All right, same thing. We're looking at 50,000 to 100,000, 50,000 to 250,000. So the European total is a much more valuable market. In terms of the French market, we would be looking at between 0 and 100,000 euros. Okay, which of the following paid channels do you use to acquire or retain customers? All right, so lead generation, what are you doing? Okay, so we can take a look at Germany as an example here. And what you should notice is that 40% is basically other. All right, so this is very interesting. We can see that some of the choices are traditional media, so we're looking at mass media, print media, etc., websites, and clearly Germany is a specialist in websites because they have the largest amount and percentage of any European country for website promotion. All right, online display advertising, digital, video ads, search engine optimization, and quite small actually, surprising. So there's a great opportunity for SEO management. All right, next, enhance online directory listings, targeted advertisements, social media advertising, email marketing. So what we can see is that there's a high concentration on websites. There's also a high concentration on traditional media. It's a more traditional market. Now, if we look at the total European market, what we can see is it's slightly different. All right, so online advertising is taking a much larger chunk of our customer spend. If we look over at enhanced online directory listings, search engine optimization, it's much more prevalent. All right, and if we look at the market gap for Europe, which translates to opportunity for all of you, that would be certainly the online advertising, the more targeted the better, search engine marketing or SEO, Certainly social media is really quite untapped here. If we compare that to the Western markets and to the US, it's a big difference. And finally, email marketing, which was quite surprising to us when we looked at this. There is a definite opportunity in direct marketing and direct email marketing. Okay, how do you ensure customer loyalty? How do you keep your customers? How do you stop that leaky bucket? All right, so we used Netherlands as the example here just to show you a comparison. And what you can see is that the Netherlands doesn't really have an iron solid plan here for losing customers, for stopping that flow. So fidelity programs represent only 11%. What are these? They're those customer loyalty programs. They could be a coffee shop card where the 10th coffee's free, or any kind of loyalty program. It's your CRM system reminding people that it's their birthday with special offers to keep them coming back, that customer loyalty. So really, that's a gigantic opportunity because, as you know, it's much easier to keep a customer than to get a new customer, and it's much cheaper. Okay, now if we look over at retaining customer loyalty for all of Europe, it looks very similar. There is 56% of companies aren't doing anything to maintain customers. All right, they're spending all of their capital and their time trying to get new accounts. And that's great, but if you have a leaky bucket with organic loss, that's about 6% per year. 6% of your customers. So tremendous amounts of money. Okay, so what is the biggest thing being used? Mostly, you can see it's social media, and it is social media and mailings. All right, so this is interesting because, as we already saw, not too many companies are taking advantage of mailings, but the ones that are the ones who have loyal customers. And this is not, this is not direct discounts. This is more like a partnership agreement. This is a newsletter that comes out once a month with interesting content that actually keeps people coming back. All right, and finally, I would just like to point out that although social media is growing, that is clearly a giant opportunity area. Okay, what challenges are you facing? We look at Spain for this. All right, so Spain identified proper marketing as a growth area and a challenge. All right, so we'll have to determine what that meant to them, but proper marketing means obviously having a long-term plan with a fully integrated communication strategy where you're linking your traditional print advertising, your digital, your online. How targeted is it? All right. Next, if we look at attracting new customers, this is a major challenge, and I think you'll see this comes across the board. This is a major challenge for everyone. Okay, money management, hiring people. What we're doing here is we're looking at what kind of applications, what kind of programs do customers need besides just online marketing? All right, what are the opportunities out there? Is there a human resources module? Is there an Excel cash module? Is there a lead generation module? And are they all flowing together or are they separated? Now, we looked at that with the last presentation for the American market. 75% of people prefer one dashboard, easy to read, green, red, yellow. They don't want to have to go to 50 applications. On the other hand, are all of these integrated modules at the top of their game? And that, as we know, is an area of fuzziness. Okay, so if we look at the European challenges as a total, we can see that roughly 37% are really worried about brand management, brand awareness, getting your brand in the eye and in the mind of the consumer and keeping it there. And obviously, the problem is the loyalty, all right? So the leaky bucket syndrome, again, these questions are connected, and obviously one leads to the next. All right, what else do we have? We have brand awareness, we have attracting new customers. There's a small need for hiring people and maintaining those. The money management, same small need. Proper marketing, small need. So where is the biggest opportunity in this market? It's brand awareness and it's lead generation. All right, so this is a small sampling of just local countries as well as the overall European market. Now, what is the plan? We basically would love to be able to look at every single European country, to generate the unique opportunity in that country and to see how you can take advantage of that opportunity, but also to compare it to the US market, because that's how you identify trends and that's how you lead the industry. And that's, of course, where we want to be. All right, so thank you very much, and I'd be happy to, of course, answer any questions.
Just a few comments on that. As you say, well, it doesn't look like it's one-to-one to what Charles presented, because we had 23 questions and we just showed you 5. And why we did that is we really, market research here in Europe is quite difficult because of the different markets. So we had to start with getting a basis of what the SMBs are doing out there. And then we start to go in the rest of the questions, which we haven't really put it, we just, as I said, we're just getting the results now, are more in the range to where Charles is going on, what kind of technologies do you need, where are your challenges? But it was very important for us to get this basis first so that we can move forward. So I'd open, is there any questions? Yes, Sid. Sid.
Thanks. Charlie, in North America, who would you identify as someone who is doing this really well today in terms of providing a full stack solution? And then I'd put the question in Europe, especially given the complexity of doing this across multiple markets, who would you identify in Europe that may be doing this effectively across multiple markets? Again, providing full stack, front end, back end types of solutions.
Well, there's a number of companies offering it, obviously. You can think of sort of the prototype would be like a Zoho, which has like 40 apps, and they literally call it the business operating system. But I would say companies that I would point to, GoDaddy, starting with domains, working into websites and email, going from there. They're layering on a number of marketing services and back office services. Though, in fairness, the further away you get from your core, the less penetration you have into your customers. I mean, even GoDaddy would admit that most of their customers are domain, website, domain-based email, but increasingly they're penetrating that stack. Square is another good example, I think. They started with point of sale. They went into lending. They've actually done quite well with small business lending. They're recently just launched payroll. They also have a number of other marketing applications. Shopify is another example that has started with one thing, which is e-commerce, and moved into websites and so on and so forth. But in terms of someone offering the full stack and having all of their customers buy all of the applications, that's actually still pretty rare. Yeah. But I think the argument for having the full stack, there's many arguments. One is, higher customer retention. Also, and the reason for that is not necessarily because you're selling them 10 things, but that as their needs expand, you have an opportunity to continue that conversation with the small business. So there's lots of reasons to offer the full stack, even if you're not penetrating it with every customer. So, but I would cite those as ones that I think have made the most progress.
And GoDaddy's become one of the biggest resellers of Office 365 as well, which is pretty impressive given their core business.
This is almost the same.
Certainly I can't comment on which companies are the best because we're just carrying out unbiased research. But if we look at GoDaddy, it's interesting how their search engine optimization model has actually grown tremendously over the past 3 years, because once you've got a customer locked into a domain name and a website, think of all of the other additional complementary services that you can offer, and of course the loyalty, because really you've got a hold of them after that. It would be tremendously painful for them to leave. So now, if you could integrate perhaps some kind of accounting module, some kind of human resource module, and it was actually a decent thing where you have a clear dashboard that anyone can understand with just accounts receivable, accounts payable, marketing, brand awareness, a few other things, then really you're going to be able to take the market. All right, and currently here in Europe, I don't know about something that is all-encompassing like that works perfectly. So it's opportunity, and also you'll notice the differentiation by country is tremendous. So there are some completely untapped markets, and then there are some that are saturated, but maybe it's just for accounting software, maybe it's just for digital marketing software or search engine optimization. I agree.
You can go deep as opposed to broad. A single platform who started with a couple of specific verticals, they seem to have had more success in penetrating with a variety of services. So.
Yeah, because if someone is happy with one of your modules that's just exceptional, they love your customer service, then they're going to be willing to try some additional things. And especially if you come in with the right pitch, you're showing a case study, you're showing an example of a person in that business from that sector, and maybe even from the same country, then it's exceptionally useful.
We have time for one more question?
Charles, I understand this is the third wave in the US.
Correct, yes.
Did you see any changes over the waves on one of the
Right.
topics you addressed about single source, preference, and needs?
Right, right. So just a little more color on what we're measuring, because I couldn't show more than a few samples. We are measuring, we divide the sample evenly among 7 verticals, which actually, first wave was 5, and then we added some verticals. So there's some comparability issues from changing some questions and adapting the questions. But, so we measure across verticals, and then we measure, we've divided sort of what a small business does every day to run the business, and we measure each element of that. So it's HR payroll, and then it's accounting and invoicing, point of sale, marketing, so marketing automation and so forth, and then CRM and supply chain. So, are you dropping your supplier and just buying everything from Amazon? That's sort of the question we're asking there. And we've seen pretty steady growth in adoption in each of these components of the business, and then also just overall adoption, doing something, at least one a unit. So the number who say we've moved none of these items to the cloud is continuing, is a regular slide downward. So we're seeing pretty consistent trend of adoption. It's not, it's not tripling and with each wave, but it's steady. And so I mean, that's probably the thing I would point to first. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you both very much, and thank you, Jasper and eCommy, for the support. And we're going to be continuing this. As I said, we have 5 languages right now. So if we haven't partnered with you with this study in your country, then please talk to me. And we would like to do it in some other countries, and of course we have to take that one by one. Love to go to Finland, but of course we're going to have to translate into Finnish because we're dealing directly with the SMBs, so it must be translated correctly. So I ask my partners who have not worked with us to please come to us and work with us so that we get a really good European sample. So thank you very much.